समस्या रहती है।
वो तो बोल रहे जनरेटर वनरेटर सब है यार उनके पास। ये वो
I've gone live, so yeah.
अरे तुम्हारी आवाज क्यों नहीं पहुंचती थी वहां पे? Why your voice is not?
I don't know, sir. I tried speaking with the earphone, पहुंच नहीं रहा था, but you were able to hear me very clearly.
I was listening you, but he was not listening you.
पता नहीं sir, maybe something in his device. I'm not
हाँ,
sure.
तो some technical issue ऐसा ना आ जाए फ्यूचर में. Let us see.
हरी, तुम्हारी आवाज अभी भी हल्की आती है इधर।
Oh,
हरी तो पोलाइट है ना, बहुत धीरे बोलता है यार.
हाँ,
sir.
you need a amplifier there itself at the source.
Yeah.
Now I think live on YouTube, Sangal has joined. Probably we can start it.
Okay. हाँ जी, हेलो। जैन साहब, ऐसा करते हैं, हम शुरू करते हैं। संगल साहब ज्वाइन नहीं कर पा रहे, शायद इज ट्राइंग। मैं इंट्रोड्यूस कर देता हूँ।
हाँ, आप इंट्रोड्यूस कर दीजिए. ओके, सो today's post lunch talk is welcome everybody, all participants for the afternoon session. This Professor Dr. S.K. Mishra from PGI Lucknow will be delivering talk on this thing, application of telemedicine in surgical care and skill transfer. So Dr. Mishra is a founder of Telemedicine Society in India, associated with many telemedicine activities. He was the past president of TSI. I request Shri A.C. Mathur kindly introduce him. Please, Mathur Sahab.
Yeah, thank you, Jain Sahab. It is my honor to introduce one of the very senior doctor, Shri S.K. Mishra ji. Dr. S.K. Mishra, he superannuated recently, it means on 30th June, from Sanjay Gandhi Postgraduate Institute of Medical Science. It's called SGPGIMS at Lucknow. And Dr. Mishra was professor and head Department of Endocrine Surgery at that institute. And he was the nodal officer of the SGPGI telemedicine program. As all of you know, Mr. Bhatia and Mr. Sangal all said that the SGPGI, these telemedicine activities were started in the beginning of 2000 to 2003 time. And Dr. Mishra is involved since its inception, and all these activities were started. He is a very hardworking person and believes in contributing to science and the society. And after retirement also, now I think he's planning to have many activities for the society. And he is holding a post of ICA MR Emeritus Scientist at the School of Telemedicine and Biomedical Informatics, SGPGI, Lucknow. Currently, he is holding the post of Emeritus Scientist at the PGI, and today he is with us. I am very thankful, Dr. S.K. Mishra. When I talked to him, he readily accepted my invitation to deliver a talk in this, and he also guided me to call a few more speakers who are all involved with this telemedicines. So today we are getting an opportunity to listen to him. Thank you very much. I leave the stage to Mr. V.K. Jain. Yes, Jain sir. You're unmute yourself.
Yeah. Sorry. So thank you, Mathur Saab, for introducing Professor S.K. Mishra. He has recently retired and again uh, becomes an emeritus scientist in government. So I congratulate him for in this thing new assignment, and he will be helpful for the for telemedicine activities in future because he is a
Can I talk something great about Dr. Mishra?
Dr. Sangal Saab. His introduction is over because Mr. Mathur has just now finished it.
No, let him say. Sangal Saab has got
Okay.
good
Yeah.
association with him.
Yeah. You can speak a few words, sir.
Okay. See, Dr. Mishra, I should say, he is in the telemedicine arena for the last 21 years. In fact, he was the person who thought of telemedicine somewhere in 2000 or so. In 2000, we had he has set up a school of planned to set up a school of telemedicine in SGPGI Lucknow. He set up, and he has now set up the STBIM School of Telemedicine and Bioinformatics Center, which is doing wonders. It is recognized world around, and in fact, he is a nodal officer in fact in the country for all the telemedicine activities. He had set up the NOFN, National Optical Fiber Network. He set up, connected large number of medical colleges in the country, and also the oncology network he has set up, and they are very effective. In fact, he is one of the core members of the Government of India advisory on telemedicine, including for the COVID uses. He has recently retired, but I have high regards and appreciate for him for his a lot of efforts in telemedicine. I had first interaction with we had a conference 2001. Since then, we are closely working on, and he is the person behind all of this. He has world around traveled. Everybody knows him in the world in telemedicine related matters. And he is now retired from SGPGI at the age of 65, I believe, and he is also the renowned endocrine surgeon and nodal officer for GPGI telemedicine program. Presently, he is holding the post of ICMR Emirate Scientist at the School of Telemedicine and Bioinformatics. Dr. Mishra, I'm so happy to be with you and talk about you. We need to listen from the people like you who have wide experience. Dr. Mishra, please.
Thank you, sir. Please continue, sir, Mr.
Thank you for the nice words. So can you hear me? I just want to check my voice.
Okay, perfect.
Good, thank you. So it is a kind of pleasure to see my old friends in this occasion, especially from the satellite domain, with whom I have worked for more than 10-15 years now. Since the terrestrial networks came with the NKN, so I was not so kind of user of this satellite technologies that is provided by the ISRO. But now we are working with the agencies working on the LEO. So the LEO will plan to reach out to the rural areas and mountain areas. So that is again back to satellite again. So hopefully our friendship will grow further. So thanks, Dr. Mr. Mathur, to invite me to join this program. It's a real pleasure to share my experience with the telemedicine in surgery. So if you talk of the telemedicine, you know the definition of telemedicine, but very briefly, we talk about that is the use of the advanced telecommunications technology to exchange health information and provide healthcare services across the geographic, time, social, and cultural barriers. This is probably familiar to all of you. You have been using satellite communication network. Many people are using several types of networks. So network has to be very strong. It is becoming stronger day by day, and the 5G is just around the corner. Telesurgery requires very good bandwidth because without good bandwidth, we cannot do the surgical applications of telemedicine. As I go on presenting my experience, you'll realize how the limitations of the low bandwidth and how the strength of the high bandwidth has made a lot of difference. So to define telesurgery, it is a surgery procedures or technique performed on an inanimate tenor, animate model, or patient in which the surgeon is not at the immediate site of the model or patient being operated on. Visualization and manipulation of the tissues and equipment is performed using electronic devices. I mean, this has many hidden sentences, words in each of the sentences you can realize. And currently what you heard about telerobotics, you are talking of manipulating a ultrasound in the Mars or in the International Space Stations. So all these things are part of the telesurgery. But I've simplified the application of telemedicine in surgery because what I define in telesurgery may not be really happening in day-to-day life or whatever I will present you now, telerobotics, etc. What is more important to understand that how it has been applied in the day-to-day life, or whether it is for patient care, or whether it is for surgical skill transfer. And the first point, bullet point is telesurgery, telepresence surgery, telerobotics, telementoring, teleproctoring. Except telerobotics, the rest of things all are we are doing in India. Because telerobotics requires a flawless bandwidth to operate, very high bandwidth to operate. And we need robotic equipments both ends, so which you cannot afford. Except that we are practicing all three, telementoring, teleproctoring, and telepresence. I'll speak about those things that we have done it here and in other parts of the country. But in day-to-day life, telehealth care for surgical patients, that is very, very important for people to understand. And during COVID times, almost all our surgical patients we managed through telemedicine, especially follow-ups or through the pre-hospital screening, etc., and advising them. So screen out the patients which require hospitalization. So what other patients can be managed remotely, right? That is very, very effective during COVID times. Of course, before COVID time also we have been using it. I'll show you some of the examples of that. So there is teleconsultation, which also includes the intraoperative consultation. Pre-referral screening, before the patient comes to hospital, patient can be screened, so all patients may not have to travel. They can be advised to get the treatment locally. Tele follow-up after your particular surgical treatment, you can follow up your patients very nicely. Remote treatment planning, all this thing you can do it, and you can tell the surgeons there, this is the way you can go about it. Distance surgical education, we have been talked a lot about, Mr. Bhatia has talked about the capacity building. So that also applies in the high-end manpower development, that is the surgical skill development, the skill transfer. There are different ways of doing that. And the current technology has made us really accept many of the new technologies, VR models, AR models, all those things with avatars and everything. So all these things are there to really make a high impact in the surgical telementoring programs. Of course, day-to-day online surgical educations are going on. Last 1.5 years, all our surgical residents are being taken a class through online, whether journal clubs, seminars, or webinars, all of these things are the part of the personal life. So need not have to say about that. And the portals, the web portals. Today also we hit it, you can find a lot of portals containing a lot of surgical videos. So anybody can get themselves educated by accessing those portals. It's available free of cost, some are to be paid, but they're excellent quality surgical videos for training. So today, any surgical residents can really learn a lot from the websites which has very leisure times without going to the classroom. At the same time, minimum bedside teaching and surgical skill exposure in the operation theatre is also important. So all this technology acts as a supplement. It cannot really, it's such a complement, not to supplement the current procedure of surgical training. Teleconferences, series and workshops are becoming routine nowadays, especially in COVID times, and not a single surgical conference now we have attended during COVID times. All are we are registering and also participating remotely, either delivering our lectures or participating, listen to lectures. What is the benefit of telesurgery? Let us talk about this thing. So it's a cost-effective thing. So obviously, it doesn't need any explanation for that. Expertise from national, international specialists, enhance and extend skill and range. Three-dimensional fashion shows you can do it. You have got the 3D modeling nowadays. All these things you can do it. Camera position can be controlled automatically through voice commands. While doing image-guided surgery, do not have a third assistant to do that. You can do it through the voice assistants. And minimize surgical error and enhance performance of a surgeon. So all these things are technology available now with the remote assistant. Another thing is reducing the fatigue. And precise movements through robotic assistance can be done with telerobotic surgery. So it is some examples, photographs I've been showing you. It's not been practiced in here, but you can remove in spine surgery, in sort of very precise surgery in the brain. You can use robots to guide your instruments and very precisely without any error. So the error of the trembling of the hands, something like that, all can be bypassed. And minimal access surgery nowadays is very fascinated, and without a robotic surgery, the minimal access surgery may not be that efficient. The concerns about telesurgery is the cost of installing such kind of systems. It's quite expensive. Safety of procedures, medical legal issues not being addressed in our country, licensing and regulations, and complications of surgery, whether it is a telesurgeon's mistake or technical failure, all these things are also there issues to be addressed. So the technical requirement is very, very important if you want to practice a telesurgery. We require a broadband media for that. And even people have done with satellite also telesurgery, but that requires a very, very good support. The maximum bandwidth we got from ISRO, many times I used to have a lot of agreement with Mr. Sangal and Satyamurthy. They could not exceed beyond 330. I visited the track, I visited the headquarters everywhere, but that is the thing they said that beyond that we cannot give. That is enough for only education, not for telesurgery purposes or transmitting heavily graphic surgical videos to satellites. So high resolution display devices, high-end video cameras, video conferencing equipments, highly skilled technologists, and equipments of surgical robotics. Okay, forget about tele-robotic surgery, but day-to-day life, we can also practice telesurgery for demonstrating a surgical procedure or mentoring a surgeon remotely. So that is possible with a minimum of about 8 to 10 megabyte bandwidth is possible nowadays with the NKN, National Knowledge Network. Now, tele-mentoring and tele-proctoring, this is doable thing. This you have been doing it, and we have done it, and we have demonstrated how through this tele-mentoring we can really help the peripheral surgeons to develop specialties and also to guide them in treatment planning and also guide them during surgery. This is step by step we can do it. Nowadays, with also coming up with a high-speed fiber 5G, Hyundai company has already made 5G surgery 2 years ago. And as soon as we get the 5G here, we are already in talk with some of the vendors to start some POC on using 5G surgery. That will be really blessings for our patients, actually, to get expertise from remote places. Telehealth care for surgical patients is very, very important, which you can do it. Any surgeon can do it. Teleconsultation, you can do it very well. You can get all the images, you can get all the text, you can get all the videos, even with your mobile phone. The entire COVID telecare through WhatsApp video, that can be done, even teleconsultation using these pictures. Okay, you may not get very 60 frames per second video transmission, but you can get different 30 frames per second, including intraoperative procedures. You can guide the surgeon's peripheral. Okay, so that's why we believe in telementoring. It's a pre-op, intra-op, and post-op. The three stages are very important to telementor a surgeon. That is all possible with the current bandwidth availability. Pre-referral screening. Many patients are just referred and they come far off places. They wait for beds. They wait for, because costly expenses of the surgery. I think many of them can be advised to stay back and get treated by the local surgeons whom you can give confidence. Okay, so-and-so surgeon is quite good. And we have done that and have succeeded at that also. I'm sure many people can do that practice and help these patients to get confidence to get operated locally. Telefollow-up. Telefollow-up is doable thing. We have been practicing it for the last 10 years with 2 or 3 publications already published, and we found it is very interesting. We started with just a telephone follow-up, then we went to the next step is the Skype, and next step we went to the WhatsApp. I mean, all the steps we have published papers, and we found WhatsApp is the best media to do a follow-up program, which anybody can do it. Even person patient is not been competent with the operator computer. Remote treatment planning, I have just told about that. Nowadays, with all this paraphernalia available with you, you can get every image, every data, every video clips, any pictures of pathology from remote distances. And just imagine, a cancer patients require multi-specialty involvement. So specialist centers can get all these findings for remote hospitals. Remote doctors can be called, and specialists from the big hospitals can go through all those information and guide the local physician. This is the way you can plan the patient. This is the way you can give radiotherapy. So all these things are being practiced, and we just need in our mindset to steer about that, how we can do it in our country, because our health system is very, very busy. So that needs to really tend to practice such kind of telecare situations. I need not have to emphasize about distance surgical education. All of you know, surgical education don't differ about e-education. It's all happening in the schools. Small boys, kids also are getting this e-education nowadays. And of course, surgeons, they don't need anything extra except that they need a lot of graphic content. That can be possible with that also. So whatever you do it, teaching, you can do it, e-learning technologies, tools, and using your ordinary mobile phone or tablets, whatever it is. I just spoke about surgical conferences and also the CME, etc. This is our network spread across the entire country. So we reach out to the National Knowledge Network. Somebody has told about the National Medical College Network. So we are nodal officer, and we are also regional nodal officer friends. So we all colleagues. Now 50 medical colleges are connected, and we transmit them live surgery whenever we do it. We also have some international partners. With them, we are also in touch with them. Some of the old historical interest I just want to show you. We started with surgical application of telemedicine way back in 2001. Professor Mahanti must be connected now. He can testify this fact. We have been, our oldest partner is SC Medical College, and we experimented a lot about surgery because Professor Mahanti was the nodal officer there, and being a surgeon and with exactly same mental framework, we could experiment a lot. And at the end of many years, we could establish very good center there. Not only that, with the entire Odisha network. So we did also some work in Uttaranchal, the hills, and this is a scenario where our surgeons or physicians, they sit here and discuss about a lot of patients in remote locations in a very enterprise manner. We believe in enterprise rather than point to point. We also have a department of endocrine surgery here. So we have endocrine surgery in other centers also, few of them. So we have regular sessions with them, and every month we have 2 sessions with them. Same thing with also leading institutes, AMS Delhi and PG Chandigarh. We are constantly collaborating in our centers. Overseas, also sometimes we invite them for our CME programs. So we don't have experts in particular field, so we invite them and they join us through teleconference. So they're all knowledge and skill transfer mechanism. We do it actually. And teleconsultation here, actually, the only thing is you have to see evaluate surgical patients. So we need a person to demonstrate it. If somebody has a thyroid swelling, so I need a medical doctor there just to help me out to examine that patient. So that is a little negative point in that, but you just imagine, I just need a technical assistant. They may not be a doctor, so they can be also assistant, they can nurse, anybody, you can manage that actually. So no problem with that. There's the drawback because you can have physical interaction with the patient. There's already mindset gap. That gap needs to be removed with counseling and interact with through telecommunication interface, whether it is, as I told you, you may not be a telemedicine setup, your mobile phone is enough for doing interaction. So today I say people, nobody requires a telemedicine infrastructure. Infrastructure is there in your hand. Many people talk about practicing telemedicine using only your mobile phone. The so-called mHealth is not a new term. mHealth is there since the mobile technologies are there. So for the sake of the time, I'll not be speaking all detail about that, but I can just briefly talk about that. What are the benefits of teleconsultation actually? Because it is the important thing is evaluation of patients. Just imagine there is an emergency case. So we need experts. So here is telemedicine. Intra-protocol, you are planning in a problem. You already have a partnership with somebody. You can just tell them, I'm operating a difficult case, be around. It's possible. Supervision and consultation of primary care, it's possible. Routine consultations of second opinions is possible. So all these things are there to do it. We have practiced it, and we can also recommend other people also to practice it in all specialties, because we are not a general hospital, so we are a specialty hospital. We do not have any general surgery departments, so we help others wherever there are requests coming up, so we help them. We started with a small infrastructure. You can, this is my first setup actually from my office. Then it went to the operation theater that you see here. And from there, with those kind of equipments, in 2001, now we have got a school of telemedicine with a 4-floor building with different labs, and many people are working there. And currently, we have signed an agreement with IIT Kanpur to develop collaboration in telemedicine and healthcare robotics. So this is a scenario where a patient, a real patient, is waiting in the SC Medical College, Cuttack, and they are getting examined by my colleague in Professor Pradhan, who is a nuclear medicine professor, and he's examining those patients. Professor Mahanti has operated some thyroid cancer patient, and those patients has to be managed remotely for nuclear medicine therapy. So this is all kind of thing, scenario is happening in India. It's not now. They're practicing the last 15 years. Pre-referral screening. So before patient travel to Lucknow, so we have also experimented that. We have made the patient comfortable. We have made the diagnosis confirmed. Then we make the schedule for that visit. So all this is very, very important. Just imagine some patient coming from some remote area of Odisha, doesn't know Lucknow. So and the surgeon is sitting there, who's going to operate them. How much of confidence the patient gets directly talking to a surgeon and getting himself or herself examined before he actually reaches the place. So this matters actually, this matters in telemedicine. So we must remember it's a really gap that has been breached with technology. Teleconferencing is possible in virtual room environment. So as I just mentioned to you about that, we have done a lot of live surgery transmission. We have now been organizing cyber endocrine surgery workshop The fourth one is over. I think fifth one is going to start this year, I think. And this is a very common thing for us, actually. Different kinds of teleconferencing, what is interactive, two-way, or it's a one-way broadcast or webcasting. Last we are also webcasting now the YouTube. So all these things are now possible. Technology is never a barrier now, actually. Technology is a mental barrier, actually. We have to do it. We have to forego that barrier. Then we can really enjoy the technology of telemedicine. These are list of tele-CMEs we have done it. Needs to be updated now. And lectures delivered from HGPJ at various surgical conferences also remotely. And one thing I would like to emphasize, the direct telecasted live surgical procedure, whether ISRO organized this Intelmet 2005 in Bangalore, 16 years back, right? So that time they organized some systems to transmit live surgery. So that time I was in Bangalore, so my colleagues are operating here in Lucknow. So we demonstrated the live surgery using satellites. And they, of course, provided special bandwidth for that, so we could demonstrate that. So that's my experience with satellites in a large conference. Otherwise, in a small scale also, I've used satellite for telesurgery, but not so happy because a lot of jitters when I transmit the video. This is my first experiment in telesurgery. You can see here the surgeon here in the left side, top right, left corner. I invited him from Pisa, and he operated a very rare procedure. So that is interactive. Can you imagine the system I've been using here? This is a desktop system with a webcam, right? And just ordinary telephone using ISDN. This is the story of 1999, the first telesurgical experiment we did in Lucknow. So since then, there's no stop. We have been going on and advancing our infrastructure. And currently we have a digital operation theater, and with all this technology available communication network, we're waiting for 5G to really experiment out telesurgery experiments. The real-time interactive teaching is required in telementoring, and you can really transmit your skill or techniques to an expert surgeon or a student at the same site. Telementoring trial, we did it with HGPJMS and AMS coaching. This is in 2004. Again, we use satellite. I really give credit to my colleagues in ISRO that Sangal is still a witness, Timothy witness. So we transmitted through satellite through Amrita Institute, Cochin and Lucknow, 2004. In case of parathyroid tumor, they operated the patient 2 times but failed to locate the tumor. And we used the broadband telecommunication system of ISRO, and we could successfully operate this patient. Not ourselves, my colleagues operated. So this is the little story. I'd like to spend 1 minute on this thing. 18-year-old boy presented first in May 2002 to AMS coach. AMS is a very good hospital, very expert people are there. Diagnosed as a case of primary hyperparathyroidism. This is a condition where the parathyroid tumor occurs. Parathyroid tumors are located behind the thyroid gland, 4 of them. So one of them can become a tumorous, and they secrete a lot of hormones or parathormones that causes a calcium resorption. So leads to the bone weakness. So they operated once in 2002 after localizing tumor. They failed. They operated again 2002 July, May, July. They failed. They wanted to transfer this patient to Vellore for next surgical intervention. Patient went home, reported after 2 years to Ayurvedic treatment. So this is the patient you can see here, bedridden. So I came into picture. So they requested me to have a teleconsultation for this. I said, how can you transport this patient to Vellore with all fragile bones? You'll end up in fracturing another few bones. Already there are fractures. So I requested them, believe me, I'll help you out. You please try again. Just imagine how telemedicine helped to inculcate their confidence on the surgeon who have failed twice. You are technocrats, you know, all of you, how important technology and very important is human behavior. So he could be convinced. The surgeon got convinced and got the assurance from me. And let me tell you, the surgeon is 10 years older than me, but still there is no difference in that because I had some more experience in endocrine surgery. So we had a very good relationship. So we discussed this question about telemedicine. Then they take to the theater and we just get a connection from the theater and just coaxial cable with audiovisual cable that we use for in all marriages, etc. and connected with the video camera and satellite. They had already a satellite, and we could help them. So we told them the tumor has to be located and removed. We offered assistance during surgery remotely, and detailed roadmap of reoperation worked out. Telementoring schedule fixed. So these things we did it before the surgery, and this is the schematic diagram of how we do it. We just got a 512 kbps. We got a special kind of requisition to them to give us at least that period 512, but ultimately we did not get 512. But somehow we managed with that 333. Though there are in between, you have to stop the videos consultation because the video got frozen. But we managed that. We managed that, and we could demonstrate and could help them particular step to do that, and they got the tumor. Just imagine this. We could that when we split the chest, the tumor has gone down actually to the chest. So little bit of experience required to deal with this condition. So they got that experience from her. This is called the real-time skill transfer, right? And the tumor could locate, they operated. Just imagine in local place, the tumor got out and the patient could be recovered. And I have been tracking this patient. She has been doing very well now. Even like. But let me tell you one thing that I have learned from these things. See, what is the outcome of this? The steps of operation were closely watched by the mentor. At a key step, the mentor guided the surgeon. The surgeon followed the advice and located the tumor, which was verified by intraoperative investigations. And 512 kbps bandwidth was available in between the bandwidth that fluctuated. This is the tumor they located. And what has happened actually? What is the impact of this thing? The telementoring with exchange of good video and audio signals with satellite link is feasible in Indian setting. This is the first report, let me tell you. We only reported this thing in a journal, American Telemedicine Association journal, as a case report. We got requests from Germany. You just publish us. There was no duplication. We'll do it in German language. So this is the first experiment telesurgery. Though before that, there's another intervention to satellite where a pneumothorax was punctured at Sabrimala with assistant from Amrita. So that was just a puncture of pneumothorax. After that, the real surgery that has been done through satellite technology. So our satellite technology has enormous things. Only thing you need to open up and make it more affordable and interoperable. Successful outcome in our case was largely due to the telemedicine technology. Difficult cases can now be operated without referral to higher centers for telemetry. Other thing I want to tell you, what other impact this have made? Benefit for the surgeon. Self-confidence boosted and patient's confidence regained. It's just imagine, the patient also has to get a confidence because it's spread to society. Benefit to the patient and family. Logistics of transport to another hospital avoided. Direct financial and social benefit. Benefit to the hospital. Reputation regained. More complicated patients referred. Benefit to the healthcare delivery agency. Government quality healthcare through technology. Thereby people trust in the system, health system. Cost factor and some legal concerns need to be addressed. Now case study with endocrine surgery with Cuttack. So there what we did is, in a general surgery background, we helped them to develop a specialty of endocrine surgery. It is continuous engagement with them for many years, and we could make them skillful to develop a specialty of endocrine surgery at SC Medical College, Cuttack, headed by Professor Mahanti. There are a couple of publications we've done. Whatever we do, we publish. That is very important. Some people talked about this thing that there is no reports. I think we request all of you, all the scientists and all the doctors, whatever you do, please take painful effort to publish so that make us visible, make the institution visible, make India visible, and make all our partners, technical agencies also visible. It's very, very important for all of us. And this is the School of Telemedicine and Biomedical Informatics. It's a 4-floor building, 25,000 square meter of air-conditioned space with different labs and everything. Besides that, there are separate facilities, operation theater, digital operation theater, e-presence suite, and all these things. So I request all of you, whoever is visiting Lucknow, please do visit this place. We are going to organize a conference also this year, the telemedicine conference, but that will be mostly virtual. So if in case the COVID goes away, then you may get an opportunity to visit us. Otherwise, many things are available in the website. These slides will be available with the organizers, can go through that and go through this content. So thank you very much for your kind attention and giving opportunity to share our experience in telemedicine surgery.
Thank you, Professor Mishraji, for your elaborate talk about the telemedicine surgery. You have touched very many key points, and you have shown the experiment done with the help of ISRO and for tumor removals and many other things. And we understand your requirement. You require higher bandwidth. So probably, perhaps for the 5G installed, probably we will get it. So thank you very much, sir. If any audience wants any questions, please.
Yeah, I'm Selvagneshan, IAST Trivandrum, Professor Avionics Department. I have a
Dr. Mishra, I have a question.
Sangal, Mr. Somebody else is asking. So please ask him. You will take afterwards. Yeah, go ahead, Selvagneshan.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Sir,
Dr. Mishra, I have a question. You have amply contributed for telemedicine. I remember in 2001 when I met you in the first conference which you conducted at SGPG Lucknow. And looking at your work, we decided to give you a node in a satellite node at SGPGI, and at your insistence, we gave another node to you at Cuttack, where you were having a teleconsultation and also CME programs. Don't you think you have done a wonderful thing for Odisha? Because I remember one thing, when I used to travel to Odisha for telemedicine time and again, one of the joint secretaries, he was from Odisha, he says, Mr. Sangal, don't waste your time to go to Odisha. It's a very backward state and nothing will happen there. मैंने कहा साहब आप रुक जाइए, they are capable people and they will do it. And today I can say with proud that you have, and you, Dr. Mohanty too, your star, you have done good thing for your state as also for rest of the nation. That's wonderful. I think after retirement now, I just want to ask you what you are intending to take up.
I have not decided. I just want to pull out of the crowd, and I like to now focus my center of gravity now. I've not yet completely decided, but I have decided one thing. I'll devote my time in research in telemedicine and healthcare robotics. I'm not going for a surgical practice or practice of any kind. So where I'll work, I don't know. We have just established a MOU with IIT Kanpur. So I'll be settling between Lucknow and Kanpur, and my focus is research.
Thank you, Mishraji. Asha, Mr. N. Salvagasan, I want to ask. Yeah, please, Mr. Salvagasan.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Sir, your nice lecture actually. Just because we are mostly working in the area of control systems and diagnosis, and currently we are working in the field of biomedical modelings, actually modeling of organs and things like that. So just I have based on your presentation, I have just two questions actually. The first question is, what are the practical implications when you are performing this telesurgery actually? Because I can understand that surgery itself is a very complicated process as per my understanding. But what are the practical challenge or practical issues or problems normally the doctor face actually during the time of the surgery? This is my first question.
Can I go one by one? I forget the questions. Just
Yes,
to
sir,
let me
please.
answer first question. Yeah.
Please, sir,
So I just request you to understand if you have got the second slides, the definition of telesurgery, and another is surgical application of telemedicine application in surgery. That there are two different terminology actually. In telesurgery that you are operating instruments remotely, right?
Yes,
that
yes.
Instrument may be at Newfoundland and somebody is in Toronto, or here I'm sitting and operating somebody in a remote location. For that, I need my instrument to be there, right? So another is you are sitting here and the operating instrument, like the tele-robotic surgery that do today in the surgical robots nowadays. Your surgeon sitting in console and the robot is fixed with the operating table located 2 or 3 meters away. So that is also telesurgery. And also in Newfoundland, there is surgeon operating in the Toronto, and the patient is in Newfoundland. She is doing it. Now it's not doing it. We cannot access those areas. So that is all are telesurgery.
Yeah.
And when you operate the telesurgical instrument, if it is locally, it is easy to manage, right? Because
Yes.
the current surgical robotics, the surgeon inside the operation theater, right? Only difference is he's sitting on the console and operating the console, looking at the screen, image guided, and the robot is fitted in the table, and another surgeon is just manipulating the robotic arms, right? So here they can find out any error or anything like that. But if you're operating here and operating thousands of kilometers away, then unless you have a competent surgeon remotely to handle the robotic instrument there, then there's going to be difficulty, right?
Yes.
At the same time, there are robots who can help you out in fixing or some of the, like in operating fracture of the femur, to guide the needle. You require a robotic arm to guide the needle more precisely, because they correlate several vectors and everything, then they guide the needle up, precise needle precision. So those things can be done very well with the robot, right? Robot has a large connotation, right? Surgical robots are different types. They can help you in doing surgical surgeries, like you still heard somebody doing prostate surgery robotics, somebody is doing robotic surgery for spine surgery. It's a vast area. Your question concerns only is how to address this issue of handling remote instrument. So for that, we need to have a competent person to help you out. And if you remember the operation liver, the first operation that took place in robotic surgery, surgeon is sitting in the New York and the surgery done in Strasbourg. You know, they practiced for 1 year to have a flawless and just 3 millisecond delay they had actually after practicing 1 year with submarine cable. It requires precise location, bandwidth, standby bandwidth, all the difficulties are there. I think for us to have that kind of practice, we need very, very high speed terrestrial bandwidth. With satellite, you will not be able to give us that kind of bandwidth. Let us focus only inside the operation theater, those robotic surgeries. Next
Thank you,
question.
sir. And another question is, with respect to the last, just some 5-6 slides before, you said that the line which the bandwidth which was given was 512 kbps. Is it sufficient actually to do such conversation and perform the operation actually?
No, it's not. No, it's not. See, my colleagues here are senior colleagues. I respect them a lot. So I can't speak anything against them or against the organization. ISRO has been a prime mover for telemedicine. But at the same time, we have a share of arguments. And if that Mr. Sangal is here, Chakravarti is not here. So both of them are witness to that. And anybody complains about satellites, this is me and this fast person actually, because I'm interested in surgery. And there is jitters. There is jitters. Obviously, it's just common man can understand that. But what can I do it? I have to do that thing. So what I should do is I should take frame by frame. One step, then stop. Then one step, I stop. I wanted to complete that procedure at any cost. So you're totally 100% right. Even 2 MB is not sufficient. Minimum 10 MB is required if you want to practice any telementoring in surgery or advise some surgeons remotely to do that. That's why I'm eagerly waiting for the 5G.
Very nice. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Anybody else want to ask something? Swami Narayan, you have posted something? Any questions, sir?
Sir, I just wanted to extrapolate the things to animal health surgery, but I think what Professor Mishra just now told about the bandwidth, I think that would be a great impediment and challenge to work in the rural area with the low bandwidth and the animal health surgical interventions. But if at all, if there are any models or pilots which have been tried out, I would appreciate if that can be shared here.
Mr. You want to comment, sir?
No, it's not. I mean, if you can just keep in touch with me, you can get the contact from Mr. Mathur. So I'll certainly share as and when we develop some new technologies, and also share whatever work we have done it. Even currently also, we can really help a lot in animal health. So I'll be very happy to help you all.
okay.
Thank you.
Any further question anybody wants to ask, sir?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mishraji, for
Thank you. Pleasure.
detailed reply, sir. So I think we will be utilized. Your potential will be definitely utilized even after your retirement. And most of the doctors may consult you. They will take your advice for future. Thank you, sir. Now,
मिश्रा जी से एक रिक्वेस्ट है, मिश्रा जी आपको अपने मिशन में रिटायरमेंट के बाद जो भी आप करेंगे और आपको हमारी कंपनी की या हमारे किसी भी कॉलीग की जरूरत हो तो आप बताइएगा. वी आर रेडी टू ज्वाइन हैंड्स विद यू फॉर द सर्विस ऑफ द नेशन.
And माथुरी will be very happy क्योंकि उसके ससुराल में क्या लखनऊ में है ना?
नहीं दिल्ली में है, मेरी ससुराल दिल्ली में है.
Sir, I'll be in touch with you. But before I close, I request Mr. Jain. Today you said that please give me some agenda. I'll discuss in the broadcast meeting today in the evening that you have, I think. My only request is I have been nurturing this dream of creating a health channel. Yes. Let there be a health channel TV, right? We can really make tremendous things that during this COVID or post-COVID, whatever it is, telling people about managing non-communicable diseases at home. So please launch that health channel.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
your request, Mr. Mishraji suggested they need the health channel from the Doordarshan or Prasar Bharati. Is it okay?
It's fine, sir, but dedicated health channel, sir. Dedicated.
Right? That's only because
great,
need the users actually. So if somebody can utilize their full potential, I have got this meeting for after 1 hour or so. So if I could get the opportunity, definitely I will post this thing.
Kindly do that, sir. With great pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now, next talk is by Mr. Shroff. And the topic is the telemedicine, accessible and affordable healthcare for all. Dr. Shroff is a senior consultant urologist and transplant surgeon and he has been the president of Telemedicine Society of India of the Tamil Nadu chapter. I request Shri Sanghal Saab to introduce him. Sir, please introduce him.
Welcome, Dr. Shroff. Dr. Shroff is a renowned personality. He is a former professor and head of Department of Urology and Renal Transplantation Society of India. I'm talking about not TSI Tamil Nadu, but Telemetry Society of India, wherein he has, through webinars during the last 1 year, he has been able to train a number of doctors and in turn get revenue for TSI. So thanks to Dr. Shroff. He's a life member of Telemetry Society of India, and he's one of the key person in TPG, Telemedicine Practice Guideline. I think he is an expert in telemedicine practice guideline. He is President-elect, Indian Society of Organ Transplantation, immediate past president, Neuropharology, Urology and Transplantation Society. He is a good editor. He, in fact, he has a lot of changes in Telemetry Society of India for bringing in the official editorials of bulletins of TSI. A lot many things, and he is managing trustee of Mohan Foundation. That type of record he has. Normally, doctors are have a lot of money, but doctor as a trustee is difficult. Dr. Shroff, I'm too happy to introduce you. I would be here. Everybody will be here to listen to you. Over to Dr. Shroff.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Dr. Mathur, for introducing me, Dr. Sangal, and I'm very happy to be here. And I'll try and give you an overview of the topic which has been assigned to me of just trying to telemedicine, accessible and affordable healthcare. I have no disclaimers, no conflict of interest. I'm editor of a health site called MedIndia, and many of the pictures are taken from Wikipedia or from MedIndia for this presentation. So I'm going to talk about telemedicine, but I'm going to take you back to, the 16th and 17th century, where many European physicians used to receive letters from the patients about their illness. And then sometimes this used to come with a flask of urine. And they used to do diagnosis looking at the urine, and they used to, looking at the letter and the urine, they would say that this is what the problem is. And this was, without any face-to-face interaction, maybe something like an email substitute. I call public telegraph system the Victorian internet. The reason is that it was in 1825 that, of course, all of you are, have heard of Morse. And he's the one responsible, Samuel Morse, for getting public telegraph system operational. Before that, many experiments were done, but they didn't succeed because they were very heavy and so on. And it's a very interesting story of Samuel Morse. He used to do portrait painting, and he was an artist. So he went out of his city once and to paint some famous personality. And when he was away, his wife passed away, and he loved his wife so much. And when he came back, the funeral had already taken place of his wife. So he was so devastated that he switched career and started building something for communication. And that is how the first public telegraph system got established between Washington and Baltimore in 1844. And rest is history. But that is truly the start of technology being used to pass information for various things, including for medical purpose. And it's thought that in Civil War, which happened in US, the military had ordered medical supplies by using the public telegraph system. And this was also being used in the First and Second World War for transmitting information about wounded soldiers. For consultation on the telephone, This is Alexander Bell in 1876. We owe it to him. And soon after the invention of his telephone, an article came up in a very famous medical journal called Lancet. And that journal said that with the advent of this telephone, visits to doctors' clinics may become less and less because patients can consult the doctor on the telephone itself. And the most common probably the consultation over the telephone over the years has been, doctor, I have a headache. What do I do for that? And that's how telemedicine started growing slowly. And truly, the definition very in simple terms of telemedicine would be that when a doctor cannot be the patient and the patient cannot be the doctor, just like in this pandemic, technology makes them meet. So there's a doctor and a patient, and there is a technology, and that is what forms telemedicine. But always you must remember that technology is for the benefit of patients and not patients for the benefit of technology. So telemedicine should not become bigger than the patients. And this is Reba, Soter, she's a German lady, and she's the one who actually brought video consultations in big form in the US in the 1950s. And she said very well that electronic media was the source of a biomedical revolution, every bit as important as antibiotics, anesthetics, or organ transplants. So two important developments in telemedicine which we should recognize is the development of telecommunication tools over the years and its development of clinical applications in medicine. And that's how telemedicine is growing. If you look at the telecommunication tools in the development of telemedicine, I told you about telegraph, telephone. Radio has played a great role. Marine telemedicine was being practiced, and there are some very good stories on that. And if you read our monthly newsletter, which comes out from Untitled Chapter, we have just carried in the previous one, the marine telemedicine, how it has developed. Then television came up, first black and white and color, and then satellite link communication, computer networks, internet, 4G, 5G. And these are all technologies which have really transformed telemedicine. And there are medical specialties, specialties which has used telemedicine. And there are two types of medical specialties. There are visual medical specialties, like things like dermatology or skin problems, ophthalmology or eye problem, where you can see what's the problem right on the patient as the patient enters your room. And there are some specialties where something happens inside, which you're not able to visualize. So there are two types. So the first specialty, like radiology, dermatology, ophthalmology developed, first in telemedicine, and then psychiatry, where patients' interaction is more important than examining the patient. So these specialties actually were the one major drivers of telemedicine: psychiatry, radiology, as I said, dermatology, ophthalmology. So these really developed very fast, and other specialties followed after that. And this is what this slide is trying to tell you: the usage of telemedicine in the visual medical sciences and in psychiatry. And then it came on in other specialties of medical science. Indian Space Research Organization in development of telemedicine has played a pivotal role in our country, undoubtedly. And I know that one of the first major conferences we did in Tamil Nadu in Sri Ramchandra Medical College, where I used to practice, in the year 2000, we had the ISRO people who had visited us and participated in the conference. And ISRO was just starting out at that time. And it was in 2001 that the bigger projects of telemedicine from ISRO started happening, and all the satellite network they created. And I think they had 384 hospitals with 60 specialty hospitals connecting 306 remote and rural district medical colleges. So ISRO had been ahead of the curve in India, and they knew that in space telemedicine, if you want to develop later on, if you want to put a man in the space, then they will need to use telemedicine. And I think that vision greatly helped in taking the whole telemedicine platform to a higher level in India. And this is, of course, our previous president, Abdul Kalam, at inauguration of one of the centers. I hope I'm audible to all of you. Yes? Dr. Sangal, I'm audible to all of you?
Yes. Your voice is very clear, sir. We are able to listen to you.
Very crisp, very crisp.
Thank you so much. So wonderful work done by Indian Space Research Organization to give a great momentum to this telemedicine. Unfortunately, while ISRO belongs to the the government sector. The regulatory framework of telemedicine had not come into force, despite a lot of people trying to get the regulatory framework, a template. Telemedicine was being practiced in India, but the regulatory framework was missing. The stamp from Medical Council of India was missing. And there were many early starters in telemedicine and medical informatics. Then, the NIC Center, the Indian Association of Medical Informatics in 1995, another organization, Medical Computer Society, which was doing this medical conferences in 1997, the Apollo Telemedicine Network, the Sanjay Gandhi Postgraduate Network, which Dr. Mishra was talking about, Shankar Nitrale, Telemedicine Society of India, and Sri Ramchandra Medical College all came into being around the same time, the year 2000. And they are all the champions of telemedicine in this country,
Yes.
which has really helped this program go forward. And of course, there are others. I know that Dr. Mohanty in Orissa,
Wi-Fi वही चाहिए अभी.
Dr. Mohanty in Orissa has done some tremendous work. And there are many others who have done very good work in this kind of field. This is Sanjay Gandhi, the mobile networks and so on. I'm sure you heard about that. So let's look at the evolution of telemedicine very briefly before we go forward. And if you look at it, 1900, telephone came just before that. And then this, heart sounds were transmitted, ECG was transmitted, and the radio, the very television, then, as I said, the video conferencing, telepsychiatric, radiology, email came in the 80s, and in 95, internet arrived, and that changed everything. The visual sciences came up. ISRO came up in 2000, very briefly. Visual sciences like dermatology, ophthalmology, pathology started happening. We started talking about high-speed wireless, network, 4G and 5G. We were initially doing only point-to-point care. Then we started doing point-to-multipoint, one point to multipoint, and now we're talking about multipoint to multipoint, just like this conference today. So let's look at why telemedicine is so why should it not be more popular? Because telemedicine is a great tool because it saves the patient travel time to clinic. Many patients come from remote locations to city, from rural areas, and they travel many days sometimes to reach a doctor's clinic. So it saves time of the travel, it saves cost of travel, and then there's no waiting time in clinics. So great, very patient-friendly tool to have telemedicine. And of course, in this pandemic where we require social distancing or physical distancing, Government of India wants doctors to use this as a form of practice. So great enabler. But telemedicine, in the past, people used to say that you don't see the doctor, and you don't, the relationship with the doctor is not established and so on. So there were a lot of problems, like that. But you can't touch or examine the patient, But with a video teleconsultation, a virtual relationship can be created between patient and doctor. And this is closest to the in-person consultation or real-time interaction. And if there is something on the surface of the patient, like a swelling or an ulcer, you can still see that those kind of things. So better assessment of patient is possible with video teleconsult. And I'll tell you a little later how 5G is going to change everything, where a doctor may be actually able to visit the patient's home. That's also going to be possible soon. So all these previous arguments are now have not so much of ground and not so much of weightage as before. In fact, there are some articles which says that the telemedicine video visit and and physical hospital, when they say that which is better, and many of the people said there's no difference, the overall quality of the visits in that. So many surveys are now showing that the video has really changed the whole game plan. What has also changed is the terminology itself. Telemedicine itself was, after 10 years, was changed to telehealth, and medicine was replaced with health to make it more broad-based. And then tele itself got changed to digital, and now we talk more about digital health. So also in the society, there is rising incidence of lifestyle diseases like hypertension, diabetes, and wellness. So what we're today talking is not of illness, but more towards wellness or prevention. Not so much about managed care, more towards self-care, where a patient is responsible. So terminologies are changing, perceptions are changing very fast. with technology helping them. What is also new is the Ayushman Bharat scheme in India. You saw in the last budget, the allocation on health was much more than what it was the previous year, and this is going to continue to happen. And with Ayushman Bharat, the government of India wants to cover at least 40 crore Indians who are below the poverty line, for giving them a reasonable quality of healthcare. And that's going to give a big boost to the whole healthcare kind of ecosystem. And one of the projects in Ayushman Bharat and the government of India is all the primary health centers which were dysfunctional, where only 4% of the primary health center were being utilized in the country. The government of India feels that it is easier to take technology to those remote locations, take a doctor. So they are hoping that many of these primary health centers will become wellness centers as we go forward using technology. So today we are going to talk about EPSCs in the country. There are also new technologies, as you know, about artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, wearable drones, 5G. So all this put together, we are not talking about digital health, a more broad term which covers all the, the research part, the education part, and the medical, treatment part all together is in one compass called digital health. So as I said, digital health will cover almost everything as we go forward, everywhere. And the government of India at last has given us a template, a framework to practice safe and ethical telemedicine. It was first, published in March, and then they notified it and gazetted it, which means it was a legal template on 14th of May, 2020. And the Medical Council of India, in its Professional Conduct and Etiquette Ethics Regulation, in Chapter 3, in the duties of physician in consultation, actually says that it says consultation through telemedicine. They added a clause called 3.81 by the registered medical practitioner under the Indian Medical Council Act of 1956 shall be permissible according to telemedicine practice guidelines contained in Appendix 5 of the Code of Conduct. So this is now very legal. That you must remember. What this guidelines does is they say that use this as part of normal practice, provides very practical advice to doctors so that all models of care can be followed, and it provides the guidelines and regulations to make it safe and ethical for both the patient and the provider. And the guidelines talk about when to do video consultation, how to do follow-up consultation, what is about emergency consultation, whether you should do teleconsultation or not. So guidelines say in emergency situation, just give first aid and ask them to go to the nearest doctor. Then a lot of the guidelines also give a lot of discretion to the doctor to decide, whether they can do teleconsultation or not. If they're not comfortable in teleconsultation, they should ask the patient to come for physical consultation. So they're hoping that this teleconsultation, if it's not used for treatment, at least it can be used for a lot of prevention in public health, for diagnosis, for patient education. So when the doctor wants to do telemedicine practice, if they don't want to do treatment, at least they can practice these three aspects of teleconsultation without any problem, without any legal problem. These are very simple things to do. So that's what the guidelines say, that you can do, you can tell the patients about do counseling, about food restrictions, which drug to take, which drug not to take, what are the side effects of the drugs. You can talk about diet, exercise, to stop smoking, how to take care of your asthma, so many things you can talk about. And you can also prescribe some safe medication as per the guidelines. They also talk about consent, what kind of consent you need to take. When a patient walks into your clinic, the consent is implied. That means you don't really need to record the patient came in to see me at this time. You don't necessarily need to take an official consent from the patient for teleconsultation. But if there is a caregiver who has come on taking a consultation on behalf of the patient, then you need to document that consultation. It's called explicit consent. Very nicely laid out. All this is very clear. And when you prescribe medication on telemedicine as a doctor, you have to take all the precautions, just like you're doing in person. Ask them about allergies, ask them about any side effects they've had in the past with that drug, and so on before you prescribe. And you must have a diagnosis. Without a diagnosis, the rule states at least a provisional diagnosis should prescribe medication. If you do that, it's a professional misconduct. Very clearly laid out. And don't prescribe to minors and so on. You can charge a fees as a doctor for teleconsultation, absolutely no problem. But don't, hike it up unnecessarily. Give them a receipt afterwards. So bulk of a teleconsultation requests are routine, like follow-up consultation, refill for medication, so on. And these can be, you can use an asynchronous type of telemedicine, should be enough. So it is, generally thought 70% of teleconsults you can do asynchronous, email, text, or images. In 15%, you'll need to do video consultation, or about less about 30%. In a very small minor one, you may need higher bandwidth, where you need, let's say you're doing a remote surgery and all that. So that's very low. So majority can be done just by email or image transfers and so on, and the rest can be done by video consultation. So as I said, as you all know, you're all technologists. What is asynchronous and synchronous? Synchronous is when you are live and one-to-one, chatting with your patient on the video. As a teleconference, the asynchronous, as I said, is already emails and so on. And so the asynchronous is very good, as I said, for follow-up and refill of medication and so on. But when you combine synchronous and asynchronous, you get what are hybrid software applications, and these are quite powerful. And there are 300,000 apps which are out there, software applications in healthcare. And they take care of a lot of pain points for the doctor and the patient. If the patient and the doctor can log in, register, have set up an e-appointment, the e-history can be taken, documents, images can be loaded, consent can be taken. Then you can have a consultation, prescription, and payment can happen. So these are the way forward also for doing consultation. And every specialty will have their own requirement. The other thing which I want to talk about, which Dr. Mishra also was speaking earlier, I heard a little bit what he was talking about. The telemedicine technology is a function of bandwidth, latency, how long does it take for you to make the connection, when you're doing live interaction, and the complexity of care. And as I said earlier, if you are doing only email, then you need a very low bandwidth. 2 kbps is enough. But if you're doing voice, you need slightly higher bandwidth. But video requires more bandwidth. Quality video requires even higher bandwidth. Can go up to 1000 kbps, 1 megabyte at least. But if you want to do procedures, then the latency has to be low and the bandwidth has to be high. And that needs to be very high for you to have a very stable connection, so that there's no as minimum latency as possible, especially when you're doing a robotic procedure. Your bandwidth has to be high. It is dedicated cable networks which work very well in this kind of situation. So depending on the complexity of care, your bandwidth and can be decided. So as you go higher and higher towards higher and higher care, then you require very high bandwidth. But most of the bandwidth can be managed with this bandwidth of about 1 megabyte or 2 megabytes should be enough for doing a video consultation, managing an ICU and so on. Dr. Mishra was also talking about tele-robotic surgery. This is a very interesting, you must remember that tele-robotic surgery is not new. It has been there for a long time. The experiment started way back in 1905. And the first tele-robotic surgery, which was done very successfully, transatlantic, which caught the imagination of the people, was the gallbladder, which was removed transatlantic from between New York and from France, Strasbourg, as Dr. Mishra was saying. So this is a remote surgeon sitting in New York, and he's manipulating this arm, just like playing a video game. And he's seeing the screen here. And across the Atlantic, these arms of the robot are inside the patient. And these arms are being operated by this surgeon here, sitting, 6,000 kilometers away. So this was done in France very successfully in 2001. And very interestingly, this was called Lindbergh Operation. Why Lindbergh Operation? Because Lindbergh flew solo transatlantic in 1927. And that's why in his memory, they called it Lindbergh Operation. So this was very unique. And with telerobotic also, maybe one of the advantages is that you can also have, this is a very experienced surgeon, and this surgeon here is not so experienced. So you could have a less experienced surgeon and a more experienced surgeon tying up together and doing a procedure, complex procedure, without this surgeon needing to travel to another location, with the same results. And that is what has been shown. So this also is called telementoring, where you actually show a remote surgeon how to operate by the experienced surgeon, manipulating the arms. So these are very interesting things which is happening today in the world. And a lot of development is happening in telerobotic surgery, where the robot can also decide and take care of things like tremors of your hand. If a surgeon is getting old and having hand tremors, then robot will make sure that your tremors are not, are taken care of and dampened when the robotic arm moves. They can also be trained with haptics to feel for a tissue and say that this tissue is hard, this tissue is soft. A hard tissue could be cancerous, a soft tissue will not be cancerous. So a lot of, intelligence is being given into the robots to be able to make decision making for the surgeon, to help the surgeon decision making. And with augmented reality, robotics, and so on, I think training for surgeons in future will be fantastic. So much about the development and the advancement and so on. And now let's come to tell how a patient actually comes to a doctor. What triggers teleconsultation for a doctor? Let's understand that. So many of the patients would be, there is a curiosity factor. So this is a gentleman sitting in front of his computer screen or on his mobile, and he's 50 years old with a family history of diabetes, and he's worried about himself. He's wondering whether he has any features of diabetes. Is he pre-diabetic? Is he got any risk factor? So he goes to one of the search engines, types diabetes. Well, I have diabetes. And then a site comes up which says you can do a risk assessment. There is a risk assessment interactive calculator from the site. So he goes to the site and looks at the risk assessment calculator. And the site takes him through the various steps, asks him about his gender, then asks him about his age, then asks him about family history, and then asks him about his waist measurement, all the risk factors, his lifestyle, and then gives him a score. Your diabetes score is 80, you're at a high risk of diabetes. And then they can ask him whether you want to consult a doctor. And if he says yes to that, they can provide you with an online consultation with a doctor without going, and you make a payment, and there you are. You have a consultation. So telemedicine is a great promising alternative to conventional face-to-face consultation. It makes, it is possible for the people in the most rural areas, most remote areas to be able to do consultations, and reach the best doctors in anywhere, any part of the world. So it is a great enabler of practice. It doesn't change the form of practice, but there are barriers to adoption of telemedicine or digital health everywhere, not only in India, but everywhere in the world. And what are these barriers? Let's understand that. The first barrier is digital illiteracy, I always say. There's digital illiteracy among the public, among the doctors, among the policymakers. They don't understand the power of technology. The next barrier is policies and regulations. Although we have a great template for telemedicine guidelines by the Government of India, but the privacy and confidentiality concerns are still there. The Data Privacy Act has not been passed by the Government of India still. It's still sitting in limbo. There's also no hardware and software standards laid out in the telemedicine guideline, and that needs to be formulated as well. So this is another barrier. And then there are barriers, medical barriers, like accreditation. What happens in cross-border consultation, like from one country to another country, or from one state to another state? Although telemedicine practice guidelines allows you to practice from one state to another state, it doesn't matter. You only need to be accredited with one of the states or with the National Council. But cross-border accreditation may be very challenging. Payment systems, how do you get adequately compensated? The insurance adoption. So these are some of the barriers in, adoption of digital health. Then there are some challenges in, decision making. Because sometimes the doctors may have no validated health website. There's an information overload. There's information, what is called infodemic. Infodemic is misinformation. WHO actually has a committee today, body for infodemic, to take care of this misinformation. Sometimes when you're typing on your mobile, the autocorrection may give you misinformation, and that can be misrepresented. So these are the problems. And the solution is to visit HONCODE, certified websites. HONCODE is Health on Net code, which provides health website ethical standards for validating information. So if the site has HONCODE, that means at least the information is validated. So this is a HONCODE certification, which you should look for when you visit a health website. Breach due to technology is another challenge, which is there all the time. And you've heard of these breaches, how it has affected banks and how it has affected, even, you may have heard of Lalpath, which there was a data breach and they had to give a big fine, unfortunately. I'm sure it was not their fault, but these are challenges which you have in this space, and this is going to only grow. So as a doctor, one has to be reasonably sure that the service you hire is, will take care of these problems. And I think this is a very big area where a lot of software engineers and technologists in India need to develop these kind of firewalls or whatever you call them, and make sure that our ecosystems are safe. Simple things which you can take care of also as a doctor or as a consumer is that one should only visit websites which has a security lock, just like this. It's a must. It says HTTPS at the end. One should use passcode on their mobile phones and be wary of public Wi-Fi. But if there's a public Wi-Fi, the free Wi-Fi means that it's not for you. It's not free to you. You are more like, the information you key in is going to be used or stored, by somebody else. What has COVID done for the growth of telehealth? COVID has helped the guidelines to come into place, of course, and the government of India, the COVID pandemic, with the COVID pandemic, there should be reduce of transmission of the virus. We should reduce the exposure to elderly. Travel restrictions have been there all throughout, as you know, the pandemic caused that. And this helped the technology to grow, as this was the only option to provide both acute and chronic care to the patient, because with technology, with telemedicine, you can protect the patients, you can protect the physicians, and you can also protect your paramedical staff. So COVID has really been indirectly a boon for telemedicine's growth, because technology has really come being a great help in providing this service to the patient. It has also worked in public health settings for surveillance, for rapid response team, for contact tracing, for doing triage, for COVID care, whether it's a mild, moderate, or severe case, to look at, to provide information on oxygen beds, hospital beds, ICU beds to the public, and also to look at the predicting mortality, severity, and all that. So public health again has really grown in this COVID times because technology has come to the rescue. So as you know, the Arogya Setu app was the most downloaded app in the world when COVID happened. So the pandemic definitely has made healthcare a priority. It has improved the computer literacy both of the patients and the physician. And self-management, as I said, we are moving from managed care to self-care. So self-management is now accepted now. But what is important is to try and get information which is validated, which is not misinformation. So we have to protect ourselves now from misinformation, and need to know what is the right information and what the right and the wrong information. That is very important for us. The public health has, as I said, has really grown. They have used this geographical information system, the GIS, very actively. They also use the interactive health for disease kind of for disease, for prevention. Also, it can be used very effectively as we go forward. And as you know, you're all, I'm sure, familiar with what GIS is. It's a system that creates, manages, analyzes maps, and the data from the maps they analyze, and they connect data of the map by looking at the location. And then at the location what is happening at the location. You can study the patterns. You can study where that location is, which part of the world, and then you can stream the information for better kind of decision making. So it plays a very important role in disease management, because it provides you a lot of this information to take care, and especially in the COVID again, it has helped us to find the hot areas and what's the virus load in those areas. You may have also seen this. It is a live site, which every second gives an update, and this is from Johns Hopkins, a very small team of people working with this program, and they provide you within real time the number of cases which are happening in the world of COVID, the deaths, the vaccinations, the recoveries from COVID, and this is invaluable information in this period of crisis. Unfortunately, state-wise we are doing it. Countrywide, I've not seen many of these GIS at the moment happening. So in public health, a lot of help can be there with prevention and with for behavioral modification and self-care. The mobile health is there, and on mobile health, on your mobile phone, a lot of preventive measures can be taken using telemedicine, like smoking, stopping to smoke, reducing weight, alcohol de-addiction, education for diabetes, monitoring, and then you can also do monitoring for diseases like asthma, diabetes, blood pressure, heart failure, and so on. You can send messages in different languages on the mobile and desktop using interventions. This is on kidney stones. This is on how to have better memory. For pregnancy prevention, for brain power, for a healthy heart. So these messages are quite effective, graphic, easy to read, easy to capture, easy to understand. So by sending these messages regularly, what happens is there's a behavioral modification and people start leading healthier life. If you keep doing this all the time, if somebody subscribes to these messages. So as I was saying, mobile health is a great growth area. It is a very powerful tool today, the mobile phone, because it has everything in its, in a small kind of instrument. It has everything. It has a great camera. It has GIS. It has monitoring devices for your health. It has so it has everything. And in India, we today have almost 1.2 billion mobile phones, of which at least 500 million are smartphones, which can be easily used. With good connectivity, you can do a video call with remote locations. So this is what the government of India also wants you to use for providing healthcare. The other area which is growing very fast is the mobile and ICU healthcare in the country. A lot of monitoring devices are available for this from remote locations. There are smart thermometer, you just plug into your phone and give the temperature of the patient. Smart ophthalmoscope, which you can attach to your mobile phone again. These are all available. Otoscope for looking to the ears. So if there's an old age home and there are, let's say 100 patients, so one nurse can have all these devices and connect to a remote location, a spirometer to check the lung capacity, and they can connect to the doctor and show them that this is the status of the patient. So the patients can be monitored better. So visits to this kind of old age home need not be there, So these are all very smart devices. And there's one project which is going on in our country, of which we should be very proud. It's called STEMI project. And STEMI is a kind of it's called ST elevation myocardial infarction. It's a little technical. This is an ECG, where if you have this is your ST wave, and if you have an elevated ST wave, and you have what you call myocardial infarction is a heart attack. This is a very fatal form of heart attack. So this early intervention in this program and taking care of the clot which forms in the heart called thrombolysis by a drug can save lives. And this is happening in our country, and WHO also has endorsed this project. It was started in South by two doctors in Coimbatore and Chennai. One of them is my colleague, Dr. Ajit. So they started this project about 6-7 years back, and this has taken off in a great way and saved millions of lives today. So telemonitoring, home and ICU healthcare is again a very big area, and it is expected to be a $101 billion industry in 2021 in US, and the growth in India also is tremendous. And today, now we can get your ECG on your smartwatches. You can diagnose things like atrial fibrillation, which is a heart condition, using your smartwatches. In fact, the growth of telemedicine, we released a report in our last conference in 2020 in December last year on how telemedicine has grown along with Practo, and it showed how the growth has been very rapid, almost 300% growth of telemedicine. How women are more using it, non-metros are using telemedicine. We show the growth, and different age groups. We saw even people above 50s have started using telemedicine. Previously, it was not happening, and we also looked at the problems of which were more often discussed on telemedicine. We also found that teleconsultation outside India were less than 10% happening, and mostly there was first-hand opinion. And overall growth profile of teleconsultation, we saw the doctors were mostly from Tier 1 or Tier 2 cities, but patients were mostly from Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities or smaller towns. So there was a spurt of consultation from rural areas. And women first-time consulting was almost 60%, and rise over 50 years as well. So good growth in the country with the pandemic of telemedicine. We are also hoping that with the advent of 5G, we'll have, your lines will be at least 100 times faster than even 4G. 10 Gbps will be the 5G connectivity. And the faster connectivity mean less blackouts, better video, faster transmission. Because, something like a CT scanner, a PET scanner, MRI, will generate 1 gigabyte per patient files. So in real-time transfer is not possible of these with a normal network, but with 5G, this will be possible. And when you do real-time transmission of these, then you can get immediately, you can also put, a little bit of machine learning and AI into the different kind of aspects. And then the medicine will become more predictive, more prescriptive, and what you call personalized medicine is here to stay with the advent of 5G. And I was telling you, with 5G also you could have these avatars of doctors visiting the patients in their home. And this market is growing very fast, and if you add haptics to that, then you can also go and feel your patients at home. So visit of doctors to patients' home also start with 5G. There's also a role of AI in machine learning in decision making, in training, and so on. And even our guidelines mention that you can use it for a decision support system. We are using the IBM Watson, which is a great software, which has a great software for cancer management for patients already. So AI is going to play a very major role. We are also using AI for diabetes retinopathy, which is a huge problem. Almost 400 million diabetics today in the world today, and we only have in India, let's say, 15,000 ophthalmologists to look at those 4 million patients who are diabetic, and we may have, of which about 6 or 8 million are having diabetic retinopathy. Diabetes is, by the way, the commonest cause of blindness today. And if you catch diabetic retinopathy, which is a lesion in the eyes early, then you can prevent blindness. And this is a patient with diabetic retinopathy who has had a fundus image taken, and this image can be easily looked at by an AI program, and you can throw up and say that you have diabetic retinopathy. Go and see your doctor immediately, ophthalmologist immediately, to prevent diabetes. So for screening tool, I think AI can play a great role, and this is already being done as a WHO project in various parts of the world. So great application of telemedicine again. The final frontier of telemedicine is going to be space telemedicine to monitor the health and treatment of astronauts. This is already being practiced, and this again is growing very fast in our country, and I'm sure ISRO will be very interested. And this is a patient here who is looking at the neck of neck of the patient to look at the vein. This is again an ultrasound. This is an ophthalmoscope being looked at. There is a condition called DVT. DVT is deep vein thrombosis. Deep vein thrombosis usually happens in the leg veins, in the dependent part of the body. In the space, they had a DVT in the neck veins, in the weightlessness. So, how body physiology can change even the pattern of the condition, the presentation of the condition in space. And that's why space telemedicine is the last frontier as far as telemedicine is concerned. So I'm just coming to the end. What's the future of telehealth post-pandemic? Teleconsultation, digitization is a great opportunity for the hospitals to give better patient satisfaction and engagement. And I think telehealth now is here to stay, at least in hybrid form of practice, where doctors will use telemedicine and in-person consultation both, is definitely here to stay. And in conclusion, I want to say one thing, that as doctors, we practice certain ethics. Do no harm, do good, be truthful, maintain confidentiality, autonomy, informed consent. So telemedicine does not change your basic ethics. The ethics remains the same. I also want to tell you that in 1981, India's first communication satellite, Apple, was loaded on a bullock cart. This is the image of that. And 33 years later, our mission to Mars was cheaper than the cost of an auto rickshaw ride of less than 7 rupees a kilometer. Why I'm saying this? Because as Indians, we are, very good at providing something very affordable to people. We practice, some shortcuts sometimes. Sometimes we call it jugaad, or whatever you want to call it. But today we have an opportunity to create a modern India of telehealth, which is affordable, accessible, and A1 quality. We have been talking about universal healthcare for so long, and that's been postponed. But if we create such a model in India, not only India, but many developing countries across the world, like Africa, South America, will benefit, because these solutions of affordable, accessible healthcare can only come from India and nowhere else. So with this, thank you very much. And I hope this has been a useful session for all of you, many students out there. So I thought it will be a good overview to catch your imagination and give you a flight of your imagination So you can join us in this mission of providing great healthcare to all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sunil Shraf. You have well elaborated about the need of the tele-robotic surgery and bandwidth requirement to the technologists, etc. This is a near future. I think this is likely to come because we are having high throughput satellites also, and also many experiment on 5G is going. So India will soon adapt to these things also in the telemedicine thing, and the ethics will permit to use the telemedicine. And of course, most of the things can be resolved. Only just few 10-15% should go for physical things. So as told sir to us. Now, anybody wants to ask any question, please?
Yes.
Yeah,
Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Shaiju Mohan. I'm from Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology. I teach there.
Yes.
Actually, I have a project. We are doing a project on the impact of telemedicine in rural areas.
Fantastic.
Yes, yeah, just like it's a ICSR sponsored project. Actually, when we talk to these people, right now it is going on. I mean, your presentation is amazing. Actually, I never heard such a crisp and clear presentation, like right from the history to the modern and to the future. And along with that, the present challenges of COVID and the technological challenges, which is you combined everything, and it has given a very, very good perspective, because it is equivalent to kind of like reading 100 journal articles. Thank you, sir, for that, first of all. My question is actually,
yes,
have you ever come across that, when we talk about telemedicine and you're talking about expert doctors sitting, as you rightly said, sitting in certain places like urban areas mostly, and most of our people are in rural areas, and they don't have access to this digital connectivity, not only digital connectivity. When we talked to the people, we found that there are cultural barriers for this technology, like technological diffusion, because I am very much interested in technology diffusion and economic development of the country. So when we push up a technology like telemedicine technology, that's maybe the reason. The people are thinking that, still people think that the healing touch of a doctor, that is the one that they want. Even the educated people, not only, I found that some educated people, even if you ask me frankly, that I would prefer to go to a doctor than sitting at home and consult to a doctor. So how we actually cross that barriers, even if whatever technology comes, new technology, artificial intelligence, everything is coming, but this barrier is, I think it is deep rooted, and it is how we can cross this barrier. That is one thing. Number two, this data protection, you rightly said. People are concerned about the protection of data. And, when we transact, when we talk through this kind of medium, we always concerned about where this data goes. It is not only that, doctor and the patient is talking. In between, this technology is involved, where this is recording and who is taking care of those things. And that is really another kind of barrier I found from the patient. So how you actually see, do you feel any kind of such barrier? Like when you consult to a patient, from other side, from doctor's side, do you also feel like that? Like, if you get the patient very, very close, you can heal him, very fast, such kind of things. These are the two important questions that I want to ask, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Siju. And you're absolutely right. Your questions are very valid and relevant. And thank you for, bringing them to the forefront. I think, the first question is about, cultural barriers, adoption of this new technology, the healing touch of the doctor. I have a few solutions here. I don't have necessarily all the solutions and a perfect answer, because you see, we are, kind of hardwired in that kind of way in our brain, that when you go to a doctor, you want to see his face. You want to feel it, you want him to feel you and touch you to know your condition. And you're absolutely right. It's going to take time before people will adopt to that. Anything new will take time for it to percolate down to the common man. I want to tell you that, there are areas where telemedicine will work very perfectly and areas where there will be barriers. And I did have one slide on, your barriers, and I did talk about digital illiteracy. So first, you need to be convinced as a doctor that this is good technology and it can be a great enabler. How I use it in my practice is this way. I tell some of my follow patients who are from other states or from remote areas or even in this COVID to come for teleconsultation, who have already seen me once. See, there is an acute care, which is episodic. It will happen once and the patient is gone. And then there's chronic care. Chronic care is more continuous care, where patients will keep coming back. So my suggestion in this is, in chronic care, teleconsultations work extremely well. Whereas in acute care, you need to see a doctor. You need to see them in person because your anxiety levels are high. Whereas in chronic care, I have patients who have been treated by me, who are just on follow-up, will come to me, spend about 5 minutes in my chamber or maximum 10 minutes, and then they'll go away with a prescription or with some advice. So in that situation, many of these patients don't mind seeing me on teleconsultation. So as a doctor, I need to use this technology and apply this technology where I feel the acceptance will be higher. Whereas with rural healthcare, where you're talking about, and diffusion of technology, as you're talking very well. So where do you want to use this technology in rural healthcare? I'll tell you where you want to use it and how you can overcome this problem. And I'm very passionate that in rural healthcare, we should try and give the best of care to our remotest people at whatever it costs us, doesn't matter. And today there are many champions of rural healthcare who will provide it totally free also. Great big doctors who are willing to provide 1 hour of their day time completely free for rural healthcare. There's that kind of lot of doctors also. So how I'll work this, how I'll bridge this gap is, in the rural healthcare, have a good local, let's say nurse practitioner, or maybe a doctor who is not so qualified, who may be homeopath, who may be Ayurveda. You're talking about taking many of these doctors, from homeopath and Ayurveda, give them a qualification to practice. More better would be if you utilize them and mentor them and use them as a platform to speak to the patient when they're coming for the first time to the doctor to discuss the problem, so that there's a comfort zone established. It's all about creating a comfort zone in that clinic or in that discussion with the patient. So you need to provide a comfort zone and you need to work smartly. So that if you can provide that in the rural setup where there is an intermediary who may not be the best trained doctor, who can actually speak to the patient can see them, and then what happens is you give them a joint kind of treatment plan, that this is your treatment plan. You are sitting in a remote location, you are the expert, the local guy is sitting there, use their services to provide. Use telemedicine for chronic care, it will work very well. So there are certain areas where telemedicine will work very well. And with the arrival of 5G, as I showed you in one of my slides, you'll actually be able to go and visit the patient. At least you'll have some satisfaction of seeing the patient, your image, your moving image. So that will also help in acceptance of technology as we go forward. So a lot of these factors will come into place, and it will take time. It will take 5 years, 10 years. But the key here in technology is that we'll need to get better connectivity, as Dr. Mishra also was talking about. Once we have better connectivity, a lot of these barriers will slowly melt away. It's not an easy answer, but these are some of my answers. The second question you asked me about was data privacy. Yes, data privacy should come through. Government of India is working very hard. Our guidelines which are there being tabled with the Parliament are on the European guidelines of data protection. They are very good. Once it comes, we'll know the role of intermediary. Intermediaries are people who are providing you the technology platforms. At the moment, there's a lot of controversy going on with all the social media intermediaries, whether they are responsible or not. And that argument will also apply to the other intermediaries in the Data Protection Act, how much of responsibility they need to take for protection of the images and so on. I practice as a urologist. My images are even more confidential. Some of the images are of private areas. So data privacy is very important. We have to protect the patients, confidentiality. And that will also give, more trust to the whole ecosystem. That will also give confidence to doctors and the patients when they're practicing. So we are awaiting the Data Privacy Act. Hopefully in the next 1 year, it should come through the Parliament, and then we'll have a regulatory network. Thank you for asking the question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that wonderful answer. Very crisp and clear. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jain sir, I've got a small point to make. Jain sir, can I speak?
Yeah, Mr. Velchami, go ahead.
Dr. Sunil Sharaf, I am Dr. Velchami calling from Tiruchirappalli, Tiruchi. I belong to your own state. It's wonderful connecting with you, sir. I think my congratulations to you also. You are the president of the telemedicine chapter in Tamil Nadu.
Yes.
So with the days to come, I think we'll have a more opportunity to work together. So that's my first remark, sir. Second part, I run an NGO called the Christian Foundation, associated with the Deepan Hospital in Tiruchi, where we render services to a patient, nurses, staff nurse or FNA. We send it to a home, take care of the either ailing patients or elderly people, where we use the doctor's consultations through the kind of video conferencing, whatever you call it. So what I suggest is, this is knowingly or unknowingly, it is being in practice, even at the rural or urban area. My second, I think you will be in a better position to comment on these things, because you are a practicing telemedicine doctor into this area, where how prevalent it is in urban as well as in the rural areas, sir. Can you throw, because urban too, I have some extent through some means where we get connected. How about rural connectivity for rural consultation, and then international specialists, super specialists?
So are you talking about connect with the doctors? You're talking about?
Yeah. Connect with the doctors. Sir.
Yeah,
Connect
it's possible, sir. Definitely possible. Please be in touch with us. We'll try and see whether we can find some specialists. Even in Trichy, for that matter, you have a very good healthcare. And even in Trichy, I can connect you to some very good doctors who are willing to, help out in certain situations where, you may have a rural patient who requires care. So, you don't even necessarily need to come to as far as Chennai today, because in Tamil Nadu, our healthcare is, definitely the government has done very well with the healthcare in the Tamil Nadu, and we have good practitioners everywhere. Because if it is in Trichy, the advantage is if the patient needs care, they can come to their hospital, which may not be very far. Whereas if it is Chennai or international, then it becomes a little further. As far as international is concerned, we have been working with an organization in California who want to actually bridge this gap of rural healthcare by providing specialists for, who will give their time, let's say 1 hour of my time in a day or 1 hour of my time in a week to provide rural healthcare. So something like that, when it happens, organizations like yours, your NGO will greatly help. Then, we will also need NGOs like yours to connect to, so that we can engage those specialists, whether they are from India or from abroad. But the problem with the overseas consultation is that, if they're not registered in India, they cannot prescribe medication. That is not allowed in the medicine guidelines. But, even then, for that matter, even if you don't do that, it doesn't matter. Even with our own Indian doctors, you should be able to manage very well for rural healthcare. My one advice to you, Dr. Velachami, is that try and get some of these monitoring devices for rural, your nurses. Like, if you wish, of course, the oxygen, the saturation is very common. The glucometer is very common. The spirometer, you can add spirometer if you don't have to check lung capacity, because chronic lung disease is very common in rural areas as well. You can do monitoring with, now smart watches, you can also measure BP for that matter. So try and give them that, empower them with some of these instruments, like as I showed, smart thermometer, or an otoscope. So that will actually improve the diagnostic capability of the doctor if these are attached, and the nurse can actually connect it and send the image to the doctor, unless you're already doing it.
Yeah, we in fact very correctly said, sir. We maintain that the temperature, pressure chart, as well as the medications part. So these are the things which we share. For example, one such consultations which we have it in Trichy is Dr. Chenniyappan and Dr. Gunashekaran. So yes, these are the two people who are in contact with you for any emergencies through audio conferencing or video conferencing.
Sure.
Anyhow, it's wonderful having your sharing your experience, sir.
We are very much there for you, sir. Please write to me, and I'll do my best to help you with connecting you to more doctors as you go forward. It may not happen immediately. It may take time, but over a period of time, I'll connect you as and when they come.
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we can take 1 or 2 more questions if anybody is having.
Yeah, sir, I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Your lecture was very wonderful lecture, sir. We had it here today. And there are many repetitions also, but it was a very good, very good lecture actually given in this area. But my question was, engineers and scientists recently developed many softwares for disease diagnosis. if you look at our side, IAST, we are currently supporting halfway. I would like to say we started supporting actually for human healthcare system in space. So here we are developing like artificial intelligence and machine learning based systems to put it inside, and so that it can able to diagnose the astronaut health systems actually. But what I'm trying to understand from you here is you are in ground, at least currently there are many softwares, AI based softwares available actually for diagnosing at least various diseases. Like you told, one is a retinopathy. You have taken some examples with patients with diabetic and non-diabetic and with severities and so on. I'm trying to understand that these kind of softwares the companies are providing, maybe many companies across the globe, they are providing such softwares. And they are developing. What is the accuracy of the software, and is it really useful actually for taking appropriate decision?
Very good question, Dr. Ganeshan. It is actually based on case to case. I can't give a general answer to this, Dr. Ganeshan.
Okay.
I'll tell you, for AI for diabetic retinopathy, Google is doing it. Arvind Eye Hospital is actually using their software and their algorithm also. And that has an accuracy rate of over 90%. And when they did a study between the ophthalmologist and the software, the difference was statistically not significant, because there are 3 levels of retinopathy. There's a severe retinopathy, which is 100% accuracy. Then there's a moderate retinopathy, which has an accuracy of 95%. And there's a mild retinopathy, which has an accuracy of, let's say, 90%. So if the software AI misses also, they may miss some mild cases, but not the severe cases, and most likely not the moderate cases. So it will depend from case to case. In fact, WHO also is doing this as a case study. And there are many projects, because what has happened is fundus cameras, image quality has improved. And today what we are, if we can get a good ophthalmoscope attached at a low cost to the mobile camera, because mobile cameras is excellent. So if you are doing something, if you're a technologist, and if you are able to help us develop a, develop a hardware which can get attached to the mobile camera and take an image of, the, eye, fundus, the inside of the eye, then that image immediately go in the cloud and give the diagnosis to the patient and say, hey, you have a, quite severe diabetic retinopathy, go and see your doctor. So that kind of alert can be set quite easily. Today, the cost of the camera is a barrier in retinopathy. The minimum cost of camera is 1.5 lakh, which comes to about $2,500. We were actually, I was speaking to IIT at one stage in Chennai, trying to develop a low-cost camera at, let's say, something like 10,000 rupees or 20,000 rupees. If that barrier is crossed, then diabetic retinopathy, prevention of blindness can be a very big project. So that is for blindness. The second is looking at X-ray images. The CT scans and all that today already have a lot of AI built in to do the diagnosis. But even a chest X-ray, looking at chest X-ray and diagnosing COVID is possible, because the image recognition of AI is very, very powerful. In decision making, where you have many huge number of data, from patients, especially for cancer treatment, their AI is working very well. So case to case, we can use AI, not everywhere, but for coming to a decision making, having a set, wherever there is a kind of mathematical algorithm to the diagnosis, AI is wonderful. Where there is no mathematical kind of algorithm, then AI fails. I hope I answered briefly. It requires a completely different session, Dr. Ganeshan.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for the answer. Thank you.
You can communicate with him further if you wish. You can take email ID from me. Thank you, Dr. Sharaf, very much for your talk and for your cooperation in organizing this particular event.
Thank you.
I know you are very fast in communicating. Whenever I send a WhatsApp to you or email to you, immediately you answer. Very fast. And you gave me a few sessions also to include some more speakers and to make this telemedicine webinar series successful. In future also we'll need your help in organizing more events. So, and if you need our help somewhere in TSI, then please let us know. We are ready, and our all ISRO retired team members, mostly they are based in Ahmedabad, they would be happy
definitely
to work together.
Definitely, and I'm very keen to work and take this forward, because we have to bring the technologists and the medical professional on one platform and speak the same language. If you align together, we can do wonders. But if you work separately, we'll go, different directions, and we don't have synergy.
Yeah.
So I'm very keen to make the synergy possible.
That work I will do, bringing both the doctors and engineers together. I'll take up that responsibility.
Yes, sir. Thank you
And
so
also
much.
social scientists also, sir.
Yes, social
Technologists.
scientists.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I mean. I mean everybody on one platform.
Correct.
And do join TSI, and Dr. Mathur, please do send a report, your link and so on. We'll publish it in our newsletter also.
Definitely, sir. Definitely.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
All the best.
Today's next talk, and this is the last talk of today, is the role of video conferencing in telemedicine, and that is by Mr. Bijoy, who is from Kerala. I will just introduce him briefly, and I would also like to thank him for readily accepting our invitation to deliver a talk in this. And his name was suggested by our Sangal Saab, ex-president of Telemedicine Society of India. Mr. Bijoy is basically engineer with 27 years of experience in healthcare technology areas, including telemedicine and telemedicine experience for about 2 decades. He coordinated first life-saving telemedicine supported guided procedure in 2003 on ISRO telemedicine network. So that shows when ISRO started this telemedicine concept, he is involved since beginning. So that was the time when we started. 2000 to 2004, he worked as a telemedicine system administrator. And in 2005, he worked as administrative manager, AITS, InfoPark, Kochi. In 2006, he was a consultant in health informatics company based in UAE. And in 2007, he headed a software company implemented of Northeast telemedicine projects to implement these projects. Then presently he is the managing director of Konarav Telemedicine and Healthcare Services Private Limited. I think this company is running since 2003. It is the first telemedicine company in the private sector of Kerala. So very good. 2003 and this is 2021. Must be doing well, Mr. Bijoy. And telemedicine project consultant for Kerala-based NGO providing COVID-19 teleconsultations. Is actively involved in COVID-19 telemedicine support system for World Malayali Council, UKV. And from 2007 to 2014 is a member of American Telemedicine Association. And he is a silver category blogger along with top 50 members of ATA. So with this brief profile, I'll invite Mr. Bijoy to deliver his talk. Yeah, Mr. Bijoy, please. I think he has already loaded his presentation. Can you
Hello?
make it a full screen? Yes, Mr. Bijoy, can you make it full screen?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
My
And we
audible?
can see your presentation also.
Okay. Making it full screen.
Yeah.
Is it visible? Let me start. In fact, my topic is role of video conference in telemedicine. Good evening to all, and thank you for the introduction, Mathurji, and thank you, Sengalji, for giving an opportunity. So first, I thank ISRO for giving me an opportunity to work in telemedicine. So in 2002, I started in working in telemedicine, and all this happened because of ISRO. Introduced telemedicine in a bigger way, connecting Karnikobar to Leh Ladakh with the satellite connectivity, and I have a lot of experience with that. And video conferencing equipments to electronic medical record and software to medical gadgets
everything was supplied by ISRO. I thank you for ISRO first thing. And in Karnikobar, the tsunami time, I had there was all the system failed, and only ISRO system worked in there. And one of the doctor, whose name is Dr. Bindu Kumar, actually he was a nodal officer in Karnikobar, connected to the mainland and giving all the information through video conference. And also in Leh Ladakh, most of the time it was isolated because of ice. And as mentioned by one of the earlier speaker about Sengalji, I think Sonam Norbu SNM Hospital, they did a wonderful job by connecting to Amrita for consultations. I was there actually, and now the video conference in telemedicine. Video conference, a short name as VC, is a specialized form of telemedicine that uses technology to provide real-time visual and audio patient assessment. And VC was developed to connect a physician and patients located in isolated, that and all things everyone knows actually, that for patient to consult with the doctor geographically different location. And examples of VC practice in telemedicine are interdisciplinary team. So meetings and teleconsultation and tele-education purpose is used. History of video conference, the Dr. Shroff might have already discussed, and this is a small clip of funny clip. You can just look at. I don't know whether audio is visible. That was a video from Modern Times of Charles Chaplin. And that time also they had the concept, I don't know it was there, but the video conference was there. Okay. Then video conference technologies overview, just from the basic points. Okay. This is a hardware based and software based, these two types. And the hardware based use video codecs. You can see on the right hand side, you can see a video codec. And on the bottom also, that's a video codec, hardware based devices, which actually uses the protocol H323 protocol to connect. Okay. So one-to-one and multi-point connectivity. And also video gateways are also working for telemedicine purpose. It will be used for multi-point conference and multidisciplinary meetings and all uses. And then web-based real-time WebRTC, that is web-based real-time communication. That is a major development actually. This after the WebRTC, the video conference started working in browser-based. So now, so that makes the video conference much adoptable for the common man. In fact, in the pandemic, you may be aware that many of the people have come into telemedicine, and they use a mobile to connect with the doctor. Most of the consultations were with any chat systems. Okay, and otherwise also the web-based systems have started working in mobile. So that's a major breakthrough, and the pandemic people used this very well. It's a telepresence robot. You can see that it is it's a movable robot with a video conferencing on the top, and the doctor can guide the robot to the patient, and the patient talks to the doctor live. Okay. So that's telepresence, and this is a AR. I don't know the video will play here, maybe because of bandwidth constraint. I don't know. Let us try that. It is AR in video conference. I don't know if it takes time. I think you can see that. Okay, I just stopped it. That is AR technology that also can be an adoptable model for video conference when as the Mr. Shaiju, Dr. Shaiju Mohan mentioned, the comfortable feel. We have to create that comfortable feel that the doctor is virtually present there. You can use the transportation technology that if the patient is virtually in front of the patient means it will be a more comfortable for the patient. The video conference usage in telemedicine. Most of the medical systems are now adopting telemedicine video conference systems. So we go to oncology. I'm just going to explain some of the medical systems which are using it. Oncology. See, a report on cancer services in Wales recommended integrated cancer service using VC as a clinical tool. So they recommended that VC as a clinical tool, and this document was some very old document. Okay, so regular IDT meetings rescheduled. So the interdisciplinary meetings can be held through this video conference system from telemedicine. A video conference usage in diabetology. So the diabetes visual inspection of the patient. Doctor can visually inspect the patient, and that will give even the patient also face-to-face consultation. See, it gives virtual consultations give a real experience. In fact, see, without video conference also we can consult with the patient, but it is always good to have a video consultation so that the patient will have a bit comfort feeling. And for podiatry, wound management, everything can be into a certain extent it can be done through the telemedicine. The glucometer can be connected to the VC, and it can be get the reading directly to the VC. So this you can see it can be orthopedics also. Say there is a visual inspection of the patient whose real movements can be seen through the video conference, and also can transmit the X-ray, CT images, or even the angiogram, not related to this orthopedics, but when the angiograms can be also transmitted through the video conference. So this is actually, but one thing is it is not DICOM images, it's JPEG images or other formats of images, not DICOM images. As of now, it is difficult to transmit through video conference. So this is a consultation so that the doctor can show the patient this is your X-ray, and live you can do the demonstration of this. So this is a CPR training video conference used in our system. Actually, we used give a CPR training online with the help of a staff, trained staff. So, this is a video of CME and a consultation, but the consultation is done by a patient, and that patient for safety measures, we have not disclosed the patient data, and the consent also we have with us. The medical education program also, you can just. So, usage in the tele-rehabilitation service. Home-based speech treatment for Parkinson disease can be delivered remotely. And also tele-rehabilitation training. In fact, we've done a tele-rehabilitation training. You can just see a clip. It's a demo. So video conference usage in dermatology. The mobile tele-demoscope brings advantages for both physicians and patients. The former easy to use the lightweight tools that allow the rapid acquisition of suspected pigments, skin lesions, images, and transmitted over VC. So yeah, now the scenario has changed. In fact, we have a good resolution mobile, as mentioned by Dr. Shroff. The good mobiles, resolution mobiles, if you can use this for video capturing, and they can directly stream the lesions, skin lesions to the expert dermatologist that supports dermatology. And if you go to gastroenterology, so tele ultrasound and see live ultrasound can be directly transmitted over the video conference, so that the expert can diagnose it. And also the scopes, you can say that the endoscopy procedures or the other scopes also can be directly streamed for expert opinion. That also is possible in the gastroenterology department. And telepathology, high resolution images connected with tele microscopes can be connected directly to the expert, so that you can get the expert opinion from the pathologist sitting somewhere around the world. Telecardiology, when it comes to telecardiology, you can, there is an option to stream ECG online, and also you can monitor the cardiac monitors using video conference system. That also can be used for a tele ICU kind of setup, and all the devices like you can see on the ICU, you can see that syringe pumps will be connected. You can use PTZ cameras to monitor these readings. You can focus it from sitting from somewhere in the other place. You can focus it, and you can monitor it. So that cardiology, can be used. And also with technologies, we can live broadcast the angiograms. So you can directly broadcast. In pulmonology, you see, pulmonology, you can use the bronchoscopy. It can be done, as I mentioned in early slides. So any scopes can be attached to the video conference system, so that you can have the expert sitting at the other end can guide it. Okay. So this probably Dr. Shroff must be mentioned about this. It's a iPhone which has got fitted with a camera, so that can be used as a otoscope, and also maybe the screen eye vision and all testing can be done through this. Now, so you can see that is a small video that is actually we've done. It is a training of ENT. Now it comes to ophthalmology. Yes, just before the slides we were mentioned about that. The fundus camera can be connected, and it has been using in the, I think Aravind Netralia, they are doing it, and CAI integrated retinal screening. That is, as Google was doing it in Aravind Netralia, and I think AI, they are integrating all the AI system there to screen the fundus. So this video conference usage also, it's good for dental also. Dental, they can use oral cameras to connect with expert opinion, and for plastic surgeons, they can use X-rays, or visually they can inspect the patient through the video conference. When it comes to neurology and neurosurgeons, sleep study, you can have a sleep study and the patient can be monitored over the video conference. And now the systems are, video conference systems are, it can work from any mobile, and only the constraint is the data, the network speed. Okay, so the sleep study, you can do it even from the patient, from the home, it can be done, sleep study. Okay, and all the devices attached can be sent over the video conference. Surgical microscope can be live streamed for expert opinion, as mentioned by Mishra ji, that can be used for tele-guided surgical procedures. So the neuromicroscope can be connected. When we go to psychiatry and psychology, it is an app system for psychiatry and psychology, because the psychiatrist can monitor the patient and can give some presentation to the patient sitting at remote end, and you don't need to actually the patient for a psychiatric consultation. Usually it takes hours, so it can be at home, or the patient saves money and time. For the psychology consultation also, the psychology consultation also takes hours of time. So the patient need not go to the patient, psychologist, and it can be at home and get the consultation. So that is. And for Ayurveda, the first line of consultation and follow-up plays major role in Ayurveda. See, Ayurveda, they have Darshana, Sparshana, and Prashna. Okay, these three things are the main in Ayurveda. And except the middle one, Sparshana, both of the other things can be accessed through the video conference. Means Darshana, after seeing the patient, I think it will be helpful for them to see the patient. And the Prashna is questions, so interrogation, so that can also be done through the video conference. Yoga, online yoga is picking up very fast. For this time also, we actually did the online yoga, so in connection with International Yoga Day. So a lot of people have participated online yoga, and that is good for the people that don't have to go to the yoga teacher. You can sit at home and you can do it. But basic instructions need to be with a good connectivity is important for all this thing. Connectivity is a major role. So homeo also, they assess the patient through a certain number of questions. That also, by seeing the patient and questions can be used. This is an app system for homeo. And the ultimate use of video conference in telemedicine. The life-saving pneumothorax procedure conducted in 2003 over ISRO telemedicine network, and life is saved. I think I have time, so I can explain that what happened on that day. In fact, this was done in 2003, and the picture you can see, that is a pneumothorax picture was taken after the procedure, and you can see that time we had the video, the television, that is a medical grade monitor, and on the top of it you can see that is a Polycom camera with 512 MP, I think, yeah, multi-point 512. That was the series of the camera, and this is myself. I'm sitting there, and that was a procedure done in 2003 on ISRO network. And as one of the person, Mr. Shalva Ganesh asked about the bandwidth. Yeah. See, this procedure was happened in the morning of I think 2003. It was in the December time. In Kerala, we have a temple called Shabarimala. A devotee from Karnataka came for darshan, and it is actually the temple is situated 4 kilometers away from the ground level, and then it's called a Pampa, the valley called Pampa. So once a patient came there, what happened? He collapsed and was brought into the telemedicine room. There was a telemedicine hospital was there having telemedicine facility. They brought the patient in, and it was doctor was diagnosed as a pneumothorax, but they didn't had. I'm not a clinician. Okay, there may be a mistake something. Okay, but correct it. There was no X-ray machine. So if there was an X-ray machine, I was told that if there was an X-ray machine, they could have easily do the procedure there. Pneumothorax can be done with the support of an X-ray machine. But there was, unfortunately, the area it was a seasonal hospital, so they didn't had any X-ray machine. So what they did is they were connected to the main hospital where I was there. And while discussing, then the expert surgeon from hospital came here. He said he can guide them. And then what happened is I told them that, see, this is a technical thing. Technology can fail anytime. So means, see, though it was a ISRO network and we were doing that procedure with 384 kbps was the maximum, but if you go to 384 kbps, the thing is that there will be a clipping. That means the freezing of video will be there. Then I had to choose to go for 256 kbps, and we gone with 256 kbps, and I instructed the surgeon that to give the directions initially, because it can fail anywhere. Okay, this connections can fail anywhere. Those who are technologists, they can easily understand, because even camera can fail and anything can fail. Any network can fail, or the satellites. I don't know, never failed. I think for ISRO never failed. But the devices which was kept, power can be failed. So that there is a lot of possibilities than to fail than working. Okay, so I instructed actually the doctor that give this instructions before may disconnect in between, and he instructed everything to the surgeon, to the doctor at the other end, and we started the procedure, and luckily we have not faced any difficulty. It went on well, and we could save the life. When the patient was brought into the room, I have seen that the patient was struggling to breathe. And once after this procedure, I have seen that patient looking at us on the TV. Patient was bowing us. So that made me actually to telemedicine, continue with telemedicine. Okay, so and we could do it. That was a good procedure. Even and there is one more incident I can say, that the technological issue. When we were planning to inaugurate the telemedicine, we had a very strange issue. We used the same camera. In fact, that was that time it was in 2002. It was very new to all. Okay, and that camera, but it was very well advanced system. It was brought from USA. In fact, that camera. That time it was not available in India. And this what happened is when we the day before the inauguration, when I was trying to set up, I had a curtain on my backside. That means a curtain was hanged. It was of orange color, yeah, pink color, and the camera was there in front of me, and it was showing all green, my skin color become green. When I connected to, we were inaugurated this was inaugurated by Kasturi Rangan sir. And the day before, I could see that everybody looks green in that color. So later on, we understand that the pink curtain made the issue, and we removed it, and it worked well. So that was an incident. Okay, I think yeah, this is I finished. So thank you very much. I have thank you for the opportunity given. Thank you very much. Any questions? I will be happy to.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bijay, for a very nice, useful, and fruitful talk. Many other things which you explained, I was also not knowing, in spite of working in ISRO for so many years, because my field was different that time. Yeah, can we have a few questions? Anyone to ask any question? No. Vijay, you tell me what are the main activities of your company? What products you are making?
Sir, yeah, we are a telemedicine service provider, and sir, it started in 2010, not 2003. It started in 2010.
Okay.
Now it is 11 years of service in.
Okay. Do you have any this mobile telemedicine van also in Kerala somewhere?
No, my company don't have, but Amrita Hospital in Kerala,
Amrita
they have.
Hospital is having.
Yes.
Okay.
They have a van, telemedicine van, and it was used for many. I know in Gujarat it was used.
Maybe I think this telemedicine is more useful in the rural areas also. Are you? The state government is taking care of the rural area?
Yes. That in fact, see, we in Kerala, many of the places the internet is good actually, and very rural areas still require the support of ISRO. I think you may have to give us support for that, in fact, because in very rural areas they don't have still connectivity, so we may have to give us the support.
Yeah. After this series over, we have noted down all the points what people need from ISRO, what are their expectations, and we will convey all that to the proper authorities in ISRO, so that they take care about it. Okay.
Mr. Bijay,
yeah.
Mr. Bijay, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is there any application of the telemedicine in the corona during this period in Kerala? Is this useful in controlling corona in Kerala? Can you mention?
As such, as per my knowledge, we are building some applications, and it will be in short time. It will be working. The mobile app is getting ready, in fact, from Kerala government side. And there is a very big development in Kerala. Is around 200 hospitals are connected under e-health, and in short time, these 200 hospitals will get connected in telemedicine also. So that the patient goes to any place in Kerala, they will have the health record following them.
Good.
Government is taking a good initiative. In fact. And also I am supporting a NGO in Kerala. They're giving free COVID-19 consultation, post-COVID cases consultations. They're providing free of cost.
Thank
you.
Yeah, any other question? No. I think if there is no other question, I think we'll stop it today's session here. And I request all the participants and the speakers, those who are present here, that tomorrow we have got 7 lectures. And out of 7, 4 are in the morning session and 3 are in afternoon session. And 5 are from the doctors and 2 are from the ISRO scientists. And one of the lecture is on telemedicine's applications in homeopathy. So one of the famous doctor of Ahmedabad, Dr. Bhaskar Bhatt, will be delivering that. So we'll start at 10 a.m. tomorrow, and same link can be used. The link which we have given today, Zoom link as well as YouTube link, it is valid for tomorrow also. Okay, so today we will close, and with the tomorrow we'll see you at 10. Be in time so that we don't delay much in waiting for the participants. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very